Welcome to Melt University. This series will help you build your brand, inform you on a variety of career paths, and introduce you to top executives in sports and marketing. Now, here's your host, the president and CEO of Melt, one of the largest independent sports and event marketing agencies in the country, Vince Thompson.
Welcome back, students. Virtual Melt University. Can you believe that we are rolling through the holidays, the holiday season, the Christmas season, final exams, college football, bowls, national championships, and a crazy COVID fall? We've been hearing from a lot of you guys. We appreciate the feedback. We appreciate all of our guests who are coming on. I believe we're heading toward about our 70th podcast. We've got big plans for 2021. The newsletter. We just published our amazing list of the top 200 internships in the country in the sports and marketing business. The book is out, Bill, brand new. We just appreciate everybody's participation. We've been able to teach probably about 20 to 25 Zoom classes as well. And in the spirit of silver linings, through this crazy COVID, and it's almost been going on, believe it or not, I think 9 months, pretty much, which is crazy. But we do have it's been a special period of time, so I want to thank everybody as we head into the holidays, and really special guest today. I've been looking forward to interviewing this guest in the spirit of, maintaining long time and long-term relationships, the things that you do to do that, and in the areas of, how you should begin thinking about your personal financial planning as you graduate from college and get into this brutal COVID job market. Also talking about being a great servant leader. So my dear friend Greg Powell, the founder and CEO of Five Plan Partners. I don't even need any talking point notes from our conversation today. I know him and love him so well, but is a personification of all those things. And I think you're going to enjoy today's podcast. So Greg, welcome to Virtual Melt University.
Thank you, Vince. It's an honor to be here. So excited to have this time to just brainstorm with you and see if we can help college students out there.
Yeah, and we, we've been, like I said, we're getting a lot of positive feedback. We really have been trying to help our students in so many areas. And before we sort of dive into Five Plan, we like to sort of take it all the way back to you've been hugely successful as an entrepreneur, hugely successful in the business world. If you wanted to, or you could have, or probably might run for governor, U.S. Senate one day. That's a different discussion. But great patriot here. But we always like to talk about how your career path and your career pursuit was sort of founded in a passion. Where did you discover this passion? You were student body president at Samford, one of the greatest institutions in the country. Many friends, kids there. In fact, my best friend's son just got accepted into Cumberland Law School there. But talk about your passion in your early days, maybe in your childhood or your high school, and then how it was kind of formed and formulated on the campus of Samford University, and how kids should be looking at their college experience and the campus being the ultimate professional laboratory.
Yeah, well, somewhere along that journey, I came to the conclusion that I really enjoyed people and that I like to make a difference in people's lives. I like to show that things can be done. I believe in the quote, never give up, and it can be done. Mm-hmm. And through all that, the evolution of Greg Powell, this journey, going to Samford University, it actually took place. There was a knock at the door, and a fellow freshman classmate was at my dorm room, and he was informing me that he was going to run for president of the freshman class. Mm-hmm. I didn't even know there was an election going on, to be quite honest with you. Mm-hmm. And we talked, and I thought, I think I can do that. And so mm-hmm. with that, I asked questions and started looking into what it would take to be president of the freshman class. And lo and behold, I got elected. And
so you're telling me this knock on the door was I'm sure this guy still loves you to this day, but this was a very fortuitous knock on the door.
Yes, very much so. Yes, I, went to Samford University to major in accounting and
Mhm.
thought I would go on to Cumberland Law School, which is an old Tennessee law school.
Mhm.
And, my dad had a background in accounting. And in addition to that, at one point in his life, had been offered a full ride to go to LSU Law School and turned it down because of the fact he'd fallen madly in love with my mom and they were both making great money and they decided
Mhm.
to locate into Chattanooga. And from there, my dad always said, if you can get an accounting degree with a law background, he always regretted he didn't pursue that.
Right.
That's a great combination to have in business. After 3 weeks of being an accounting major, I called my dad and told him that the genetic code had been broken. Not going to be an accountant.
Right,
So
right, right,
later in
right,
life, I redeemed myself and married my wife Peggy, who's a CPA.
right,
And
right.
so I got back in his good graces there, but I switched over to
Well,
finance.
you married up because we say you outkicked your coverage. That's for
Oh,
sure when
there's
you
no
met
doubt
Peggy.
about that. And
But
the
we'll get into that a little later.
yeah, so that how life has evolved and doors have opened has been phenomenal for me. And let me say this is that I was very fortunate in my high school education. My parents always wanted and encouraged myself and my brother to think big, to understand that the only limitations you have in life are the limitations you set for yourself.
Hmm.
And I grew up on that philosophy.
Amen
And
to that, right?
here we were, freshman class, and I said, I'm going for it. And I won. Then from there, I just have to, a quick story is that I got a note in class. This is before they could text or email you. And I got a note in class that the president of the university wanted to see me. And I
Now,
was,
who was that at the time?
I'm sorry.
Who was the president at the time? I forgot who that was.
Leslie S. Wright,
Yeah,
Dr. Leslie S. Wright, who was phenomenal to me.
right.
And Dr. Wright had somebody bring a note to the class. They looked at my schedule, and I was sitting there, and I was in a polo shirt and jeans. And guess what? I went back to my dorm room and changed into a coat and tie and
Brilliant.
uh, khakis at the time, which was still in style, and
Right.
went to his office. And when I walked in, he looked at me and behind his desk and he said, "Did you go to class dressed like that?" And I said, "No, sir. I didn't feel like I should come in here in a polo shirt and jeans." And so I went back and changed. And he looked at me and he said, "Greg Powell, I'm glad you're president of the freshman class and I'm looking forward to working with you." And we started a bond right there just because I showed him respect.
Mhm.
And he really appreciated that. And so my point is, my Samford University education was not only an incredible education in finance in the classroom,
Mhm.
but in addition to that, I knew the trustees, I knew the administration. I mean, I got to interact with names from the past here, but Wallace Malone that founded South Trust Bank, Harry
Oh yeah.
Potter founded Central Bank that became Compass, and today we know as BBVA Compass. Jerome Hodges of Liberty National. At the time, Birmingham had some phenomenal companies based here,
Oh
and
yeah.
these men played a key role in my life in terms of just adding to that. You don't have any limitations for yourself, and
Mhm.
in addition to that, that you can take this as big as you want to. You're only as big as the world you create. And I
Mhm.
wasn't a shy individual, although I still had a lot to learn at that point. But they fed me nuggets of wisdom
Right.
that I listened to, and from there, Vince, I went on to be president of sophomore class, the junior class, and actually vice president of student government, and then president of student government, and I just took the opportunity to know every adult I could, every college student I could know. The way I don't even know where I got this idea from, but I would every day get the Birmingham newspaper, and at
Mhm.
the time there was a section on business, and
Yep.
I would read that every day.
That was
And
a great section for a long time, by the way.
it was a who's who.
Mhm.
And after I would read it. If it was somebody who had been very successful in finance, I would go back to my dorm room, pick up the phone after looking up their company number in the directory and call them and ask them if I could come and talk to them for about 20
That was the old days with the yellow pages, which I try to tell the kids. They look at me like I'm an alien.
Very much so. Well, here's my point to your listeners is from the standpoint they have got incredible technology that they are a brand within themselves. And to have that opportunity to be able to reach out to people through email, through text, through picking up the phone.
How about in LinkedIn right at the top palm of your hands, right?
If I had those kind of things
Oh, my goodness.
back when I was young and to build the connections, I left with a college with an incredible database.
Right.
And the thing is, I need to say this, after I came out of college and got into this industry, to give financial planning, wealth management, people from the university administration, people from the trustees, people that I met that I just wanted to brainstorm to find out how successful they are, they became clients of mine.
Yeah. Funny how that works.
They opened up doors for me. And that's why though your listeners need to understand and that they've got a power that they fully need to use. I talk about in my book Better, Richer, Fuller. I talk about in there was an evening, we have 3 daughters, and our youngest daughter Lydia, we just finished watching The Wizard of Oz. And Lydia's around 5 or 6, and we're picking up the popcorn bowls and our glasses and everything from watching it. And Lydia goes, "I don't get it." And I'm like, "What?" And she goes, I don't get it. And I said, "Lydia, what do you mean?" And she said, "I don't understand why Dorothy just didn't click her heels and go back home. Why?" And I said, I'm the dad, of course. And I go, "Lydia, that's just how they wrote the story." And she looks at me like, "That's the best you got?" That is the best you've got. I mean, think about that. Look, from a 6-year-old.
From the mouths of babes. That's right.
Oh, and so I'm like, okay, as the dad, think. You got to figure this out. And I look at her and I go, "Lydia, let me say this to you. Is that actually it's a great story. Dorothy's like all of us. And from the standpoint, you have to go on journeys in life. And we all have this yellow brick road we have to go down. And along the way, you're going to make friends, the Lion, the Tin Man. You're going to go through good times and bad times, and lions, tigers, and bears, and flying monkeys, and you'll
The
have
witches.
along the way. But the point you need to understand, Lydia, is that what they're trying to tell you is that Dorothy had the power all along. She just had to go on that journey to know she had it.
Right. Yeah, that is brilliant.
You are 6 years old, and you need to understand that in life, if you dream it, if you go for it, if you work hard and improve, you're going to have your dreams and become your reality, become what you want to be. And
that's what I tell you. I tell the kids every day, and I go, "You can dream it, you can do it."
Exactly. That's exactly right. And she looked at me and said, "Oh, okay," and walked away. And of course, I'm wiping the sweat off my brow, like, okay, maybe that's
pretty strong. That's a pretty strong recovery. I'll give you that.
Thank you. Well, I say to every college student when I speak to the college classes, I'm like, "Look, guys, you've got a power." Greg Powell had these people when he was SGA president and going through the university. I've got to pay it forward. And the way for me to pay it forward is if you ask me for my advice, if you ask me for my guidance, if you ask me to open up doors for you, because somebody did that for me. And we all remember what it was like, to come out of college trying to reinvent yourself, who you want to be. And so there are all these top professionals like yourself, Vince, doing this podcast and, with me, speaking in my book, in your book, trying to educate these kids that one of the greatest powers you have is to ask questions. So I have in my book, one of my Gregisms is the key to success is not the statements you make, but it's the questions you ask. And you've got got to come up with a series of questions, and you need to know them verbatim, that you can ask of people, even in the interview process. You've interviewed thousands of people. I have. When they come in and they're just talking about themselves and they just make statement as a follow-up to our questions. What's refreshing is when they ask us questions. When they say, I want to know more about this company. I want to know who's worked here the longest and why. I want to understand your vision, your culture. I want to understand where I can be in 5 years. How can I make a contribution to this company? I've researched your company and I've got some additional questions I would like to ask you. What was it like to start the company from scratch? What were your first days like? All those kind of questions. The problem is everybody at times is so focused to get their point across, they forget to ask the questions. But the questions will open the doors. And that was pivotal in my career. One question that I asked, I was out of college. I was in the investment department of South Trust Bank that your listeners now know as Wells Fargo. I was an investment trainee. I went to the head of the department, Ashton Stuckey, and I said, Ashton, if you have any extra work that needs to be done, I want to do it. I'm volunteering. I'll do it. I want to learn this business. And he looked at me like I had a third eye. He's like,
right.
And I said,
you want to do what?
Yeah. And he said, can you write? Well, I thought I was a good writer. I couldn't confirm that, but I looked at him and said, yeah, I'm good. And he said, well, I've got to put together the 5-year plan for this department. And if you help me put it together, it'll be worth your time. And so I would do my usual job from 8 to 5, go in, meet with him around 5. He would show me things he wanted done. I would stay late and put things together. Now, this is long before you had PowerPoint and those kind of things. We're talking about getting things printed. To go to the printer, you're having to do overheads.
Oh my God! Woo. They don't remember those days, do they?
Well, that's what I'm saying. They've got the incredible technology to really put things together now. But the point is, I learned more about that department than people that had been there 30 years because I was putting together with the head of the department the 5-year plan only because I asked. And after the 5-year plan got approved by the board of directors, which I went to with him, and I got to sit there with the heads of these corporations, he calls me in. He goes, I got good news, I got bad news. And I said, okay. He said, the good news is the plan got approved, 100%. We're moving forward with it, and I really appreciate all your help and everything. And I said, look, I'm just honored to be a part of it. And he said, now the bad news. I've got to go out and start some of these new ideas. And one of them is I've got to start a public finance department. And I can either go try and recruit somebody, or guess what? If I could find a guy that's going to be turning 23 years old here before long, I will, I'll give him an office, an assistant, an expense account. He can hit the road, calling on city, county, and states to see how we can do bond issues for them. I'll also give him a club membership and access to the bank Learjet subject to my approval. What do you think I ought to do? And I said, go with the 23-year-old. And so at age 23, I started public finance at South Trust Bank, all because I asked a question, all because I said I'm willing to do the work. So the point I want to make to your listeners here, and Vince, come on, man, you've knocked on these doors. These doors have opened. You have asked so many questions.
Still do, by the way.
I know. I'm still doing it myself.
Wow.
And then it just makes life this incredible journey, as well. I when I speak to the college students, and of course I believe in the American dream, and that's where the title of my book, Better, Richer, Fuller, it actually comes from a quote from a guy, James Truslow Adams, who wrote Epic of America in 1931. He coined the phrase American dream. And in there, he said that the American dream is about a land where life is richer, it's about a life that's better, richer, fuller. And so, I fully believe that. And with that, when I'm talking to these kids, one of the questions I ask these young adults, I go, okay, what does PR mean to you?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I'll hear public relations. And I'm like, no, it
Mm-hmm.
means practice, rehearse. And what I mean is that you can
Mm-hmm.
have a message out there. You can be saying, I can do this or I can do that, but you better practice and rehearse and make sure you can deliver on it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you have, well, you've, I've taken like 500 notes because you've hit so many talking points and so many tips that we love to bring up and love to unpack. So I'm gonna break down some of them.
Okay.
One, how can you always add value? And these are in no particular order. I was just writing so fast. How can you add value to any situation you're in? So whether you're interviewing for that job or you're there. And Greg, one of my biggest pet peeves with this generation, pre-COVID, is that they were ready to hit the door at 5:15, go to Flywheel or Soul Cycle, or they get these dogs that they got to go take care of. They job hop it in 3 months, and the replacement costs and all that. But I'm always like, the ones that rise in my organization, or ones I hire, how can you add and bring value? You went to that leader and you said, hey, yeah, I'll roll up my sleeves. I'll do anything to help you. That is so amazing. The story about you changing into a coat and tie to go see the president, it was only as important as you made it. So
That's
you
right.
could have come in there hot with and I'm sure you dressed nice and looked nice. You could have come in there hot with a nice polo shirt and you'd have been fine. On running for the president of the freshman class, or helping draft this big 5-year vision, you took the shot. Like Gretzky says in my book, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And I took that shot that fortuitous day with David Housel at Sports Information and wound up on my career path. You
Right.
started a strategy at college of relationship building and networking. And I tell these kids, every relationship, two things: you got to nurture it like a flower or a plant. You got to groom it, grow it, sunlight it, trim it, fertilize it. And the first 2 letters of relationship are RE, and the first 2 letters of reciprocal are RE. It's got to be give and take. And be
Right.
curious. Be curious. You're always curious. We're always seeking. We're always seeking to find and learn. And to your point, I always say, interview the interviewer. Know more than there is to know about that person. Know their emotional cues, know their ego cues. If somebody's reaching out saying, oh my God, Greg, I see where you're class president or student body president at Samford, and you started this thing, they've already shown you intangibly that they've done their homework, and that's the type of employee that they would make. And in this brutal COVID environment, in the first job world, and so many people unemployed, willing to take a lesser job for a lesser salary, these little tips are going to add up to the outcome, which is passing the audition to get to the point where you can land this job in this crazy time. And so I think you've hit on so many amazing things for our kids, and I hope that was a decent regurgitation of what you said.
No, you're right in there. I just can't emphasize questions. I mean, when there's a book that Barbara Walters read that was I was frustrated at one point in my career, and an attorney that was working with me on a bond issue said to me, Greg, there's a book you need to read. It's called How to Talk to Anybody About Anything. And I read that book, and in essence, it's about how to ask questions. And this generation doesn't ask questions.
They really don't, do they?
2 questions they all need to know. How can I help you? That is a question that they need to always have in dialogue, because you know what?
Say that again. Say that again. I want you to repeat that for our listeners.
Yeah. The one of the main questions everyone needs to know is, how can I help you? In other words, every time you're having dialogue with somebody, ask them if you can do anything for them. What doors can you open? You would be amazed that, again, going back to, like I said, a power within them. College students, college graduates, they have all these connections. They could help somebody else as well. but the rippling effect of that is huge. And let me say this, I give that same advice to the 55-year-old who just now is going through a career transition. They got an early out package to get out of the company and the job that they were in. And now they go, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I want to keep working. Well, guess what? The biggest question at 55 or at 25 or 22 you can ask anybody is, how can I help you?
Mm-hmm.
What
can I do? What can I do for you today?
Exactly. And I tell everyone, when you end your interview, you ask that question: what doors can I open for you? How can I help you? The other thing for the younger ones listening to this podcast here, when you're in that job interview and they come towards the end of it and they go, do you have any other questions? You need to look at them and say, I want this job. I want this job. And then be quiet. If it's a job you really want, you need to let them know you want it and that you're willing to do the things it will take, the extra mile, the extra effort, whatever it takes to learn and leapfrog over others they are considering.
I love it. So let's make a transition a little bit, because I think you've I mean, it's just amazing. We could stop right here, but I want you to, because we have a lot of guests from, the marketing and the sports and,
Sure.
a lot of things that a lot of our kids want to hear about, but something that they need to hear about. What do our students need to do right now, pre-COVID and COVID? But to begin, and by the way, I don't know if I'm still paying for some of my college and early day financial transgressions coming out of college, but
Right.
I wish I had somebody talk to me, because particularly if you've never had any money and then you struggle to get through college and then you get out and you got a little bit of independence and liberty. What are some basic fundamental things that our students need to be doing right now in college to begin that transition into the real world, into the first job?
Well, I mean,
some fundamental things, because
sure. Well,
these are very sophisticated kids, but they're still kids.
No, absolutely. But let me say this, is that my book, Better, Richer, Fuller, was written for people so to understand these are all the questions you need to be asking yourself in life, regardless of your age. You also need to know that one of the biggest things we deal with, I have a process called the ASK process: anxieties, strengths, and knowledge. And you need to ask questions and see, what solutions do I need to get rid of my anxieties? What solutions do I need to free up so I can utilize my strengths? And what knowledge do I need to bring to the table in order to get confidence to move forward, to overcome my anxiety or fears? And part of that process is, if you were already out of college and starting your career, I have a process called Your Financial House. I got a website on it. It's linked to Five Plan Partners website. And basically, it's all the questions you need to be asking on the different topics of life. In college, the first thing you can learn to do is set goals. Envision your life. What's life, going to look like after college? Whether you're a freshman, a sophomore, a junior, a senior. A senior, for example, let me give you an example here. Juniors and seniors, but especially the seniors, start having anxiety about, how am I going to find a job? How am I going to get in that graduate school? Well, I will ask the question when I'm speaking to them, how many of you have gone over to the alumni department of your university?
Bingo.
And asked, keyword again, and asked how many graduates from the university work in that field?
The lowest hanging fruit is the alumni.
Exactly. Alumni want to help alumni. You got the power within you. Number two, I want to live in Denver. I want to live in Scottsdale, Arizona. I want to live in New York City. Find out how many alums live in those cities and connect with them, even if they're not in the a career path that you want to be in.
Right.
So from the standpoint, if your family has a CPA, a financial advisor, a wealth consultant like myself, an estate attorney, a tax attorney. All these professionals know all these business owners. If you want to move back home, you need to make sure they get your resume, and you need to go when you're home for the holidays or in this COVID environment and see if you can't do a virtual meeting with them or a social distancing meeting and say, hey, my family's used you for years. I'm in this profession. I'm in marketing, or I'm going to graduate with this degree. Do you know anyone who's hiring right now, or can you recommend any companies that I should apply for? And as they get to know you, and I do this all the time, as I get to know this young man or woman, I go, you know what? I want you to use me as a reference. I've known your family. I've known you growing up. Use me to help you open up doors. Again, it starts while you're in college, and get a plan. Where do you want to be in 1 year? Where do you want to be in 3 years? Where do you want to be in 10 years? It's changing constantly. One of the questions I ask people in the Your Financial House process, and when I speak to college students, I challenge them to do it too. If money were no object and you knew you couldn't fail, what decisions would you make in your life?
Right.
Greg Powell, who is, now 61 years old, I still take every month, during the month, I take 1 day and I get quiet and I ask myself that question. And I still get incredible answers from it that help me tie it into my goals on where I want to be. And that's why when people say to me, Greg, you've gotten to do some incredible things. My life is basically like Forrest Gump. Vince, you know me and my background. It's like, how did I get here? It's because of the fact I think you have to be open and have a vision for your life. And on the money side, you need to be checking as to how much people make in the major you're in the career. If you're a music major, you really need to be finding out if you need to become a music teacher, a music professional. If you're going to be, a social worker, what are they making and how are they living? If you look and say, I want this kind of house one day, but their salary ranges don't match up, you may want to rethink your major or what you want to do. The beauty of this generation, though, is with technology, is there's so many careers that they're going to be able to create on their own that we don't even know about yet.
Right. Well, and I think you hit on something that I do the same as well, is that you got to be flexible. You got to be adaptable. Life's not linear. Welcome to the real world. You're going to be in the tumble cycle. You're going to get thrown off that saddle, but you got to continue grinding. You got to continue focus. You got to continue to reset your goals. It doesn't matter if you're 61, 58, 21, 18, whatever it is. Those philosophies are time tested, are they not?
That's exactly right. Yeah, these are the things we're talking about here, and you and I are living proof of it. They're fundamentals. You've got to understand these fundamentals to be able to move forward.
You got it. I mean, it does. They never go away. So, I think this is just, so inspirational. So, Greg, one thing I talked about too is they've got all these places they can find me and you, and LinkedIn or email or Google and all that. And I'm still shocked that I will get to my generic websites, careers at Melt, infos at Melt, to whom it may concern, attaches my resume. I need to make X amount of dollars.
Right.
And you know what I do with that resume? I flush that sucker.
Sure.
As opposed to saying, dear Mr. Powell, fellow Samford alum, congrats on all your success. I too was in student government. I'd love to seek your advice and wisdom. Which one are we going to respond to? It's a blind date. It's an audition. We got, it's like, I call it the billboard test. You have 3 to 10 seconds that it takes the time to read a billboard on the interstate to get our attention. What gets Greg Powell's attention in this virtual and viral world right now? I'd love to take them under the cover and say, okay, here's things you really need to know. Okay. So what do they really need to know from the Greg Powell?
Let me say this. They need to take charge and have a mindset and understand that effective the day of graduation and actually before, they are a brand. They now are a brand. If they've been raised, oh, you be humble, or you don't be too pushy and those kind of things. I want to tell you, I don't agree with that.
Nope.
You're a brand. And now it's time for you to run your campaign. So let's take somebody in marketing. If they're going to be in marketing, one of the greatest examples they can give is how they're branding and marketing themselves. If they can't do that, then why would I want them in my company to brand and handle my logo and my brand name? I want to see how they're going to handle it for themselves. I always ask the question when I speak to college students, name all the different brands of toothpaste off the top of your head. So Vince, I'm calling you out. Name all the different brands of toothpaste you can think of off the top of your head. Go ahead.
Right. Well, me? You talking about me?
Yeah, I'm talking about you.
Well, see, I'm a packaging freak, so I've got you here. So I love Aquafresh.
Okay.
I love Colgate.
Okay.
I love Crest.
Right.
Let me think about that. Hell, that may be the three that I know, because those are the three that I use.
All right. Well, and let me tell you why I really appreciate that, because you're brilliant in branding and marketing. And the thing is, most people name between 1 and 5, but if you research it, there's over 260 something different brands
right
on the market. But those 3 did something to get on your mental shelf space.
Right.
When I said toothpaste, you didn't see the word toothpaste. You didn't see a plain tube of toothpaste with no name on it. You saw one of those 3 names on there. The point I want to make to these college students is that you have got to get on my mental shelf space. You not only need to send me the resume, you need to send me handwritten notes. You need to send me an email with an attachment to it that says, I saw this article about your firm, or I saw the article about changes taking place in the industry, thought of you and thought you might like to read it. Those just come at me in a variety of ways, as well as see what we're involved in the community. I had one employee here that tracked me down at a Chamber of Commerce meeting.
Yep.
He saw that we were members of the Chamber of Commerce. And so in college, he went to this Chamber of Commerce and then found me, and didn't even know if I was going to be in attendance, but found me and came up and said, I really want to interview with you for these reasons, and this is what I like about your firm. And I was blown away by that, and I hired him.
Yep. It blew you out of the water, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So you've got to understand to become a brand. Also, if it's a publicly traded company or even a large privately held company, not only do you want to send your resume, and you said it beautifully a few minutes ago, not only do you want your resume to go in through the usual route they tell you to, scan it and send it in.
It's a test.
It's a test. To brand and market, you need to also send it to the CEO, send it to the head of the department. They're going, send personalized letters with it. And then who in HR, who's going to react first? Are they going to react to the one that came in the normal way, or the one that came in through other areas of the firm? And so that is key on how you market and brand yourself.
It is can you hear me now? I think I cut out for a second.
No, you're good.
Testing.
You still there?
Oh yeah, good. So we put these Easter eggs in there. It's a test. Because this is how you're going to be as an employee. And by the way, Greg, I want you to explain something to our kids, because they don't really quite understand it. If Greg Powell or Vince Thompson, we're not like Coca-Cola or Apple or Nike. This is coming out of our pocket. We're making a personal investment in this person, right?
Right. That's correct. Yes.
And so you better dang sure do everything you can to justify this personal investment that we're making in this human being, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So to wrap this up, because you and I could go on all day. And I know you're busy and everybody's busy, but talk about and because I always love to ask this question, and I always love to ask it twice, and in the end, and I'm not talking about just industry or trade or periodicals, but some of the old throwback resources. We hear a lot of John Wooden's seven pyramids of success, and we hear like what motivates and inspires, great books. We hear a lot of my dad gave me a copy of Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Right. A long time ago. I still have it. Norman Vincent Pillay, still have that. What are some of your old go-tos, and then now some of what are your current books or podcasts or resources that from an inspiration and guidance and leadership perspective?
Oh, wow. You named some of them. I mean, I read, the Dale Carnegie's, during my time period. And I think everybody, also Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill was one.
Now, that's a good one, right?
There's a guy by the name of Tom Hopkins. Tom wrote some incredible books on how to interact with people in presentations. Those were all good. Now, a lot of people don't realize, but like Tony Robbins started in the early 80s,
they really don't, do they?
They don't. And so, when I see Tony Robbins now, I mean, I still, think Tony's done a incredible job. And the other thing is, I want to say, maybe you don't believe with everything that these people with this background, or the ideas that they're giving. You don't have to buy into everything. The objective is find the nuggets that fit you and fit your dream, your vision, your passion, and apply it. Make it a part of you. And so, there are those today that are still coaching and writing books. That Brian Tracy was another one. Brian's still out there doing books, and I'm a bookaholic. I always say that when I left Samford University, I left with an addiction, and it was a bookaholic. And to this day, right, I am constantly reading. The guy that played a key role in my life, Dan Sullivan. Dan is owner of Strategic Coach. I was in Dan's program and have read everything that he's written for many years. And, that's the other thing I would say to everybody is that if you're reading and researching and listening to the podcast, apply those things that work for your life, but find those that consistently inspire you like that. So Dan's, got a new book out now that I highly recommend. And there are others out there that I'm constantly reading. I'm also big on history, and I encourage everybody.
I think history is huge.
Yeah, the Splendid and the Vile that just is being recommended by Eric Larson. It's about Churchill. I'm a huge Winston Churchill fan. Yeah. Yeah. And in this COVID period, as we lament about how bad things are, and we don't want anyone dying, and we don't want anyone hurting, and we don't want anybody unemployed, but read that book and understand, people in London were getting bombed about every night. And
unbelievable.
And then all of a sudden you go, you know what? We've got all this going on. It's horrific for our time period, but at the same time, we still have 2-day free delivery. And the other day, I needed a new sound bar for a TV, and I bought it, left my house, and in 35 minutes was back at my house because I picked it up at Best Buy. So, the point being is, yes, there are people hurting out there, but we all need to understand if we can help others and then also find inspiration from a historical standpoint of what people have gone through. In 1918, with the last pandemic that we know of, the innovation that came out of starting in 1920 was incredible. And I think 2021 is going to put us on that path.
Right.
We're going to see innovations that are just unbelievable. So to answer your question, that I could give name after name. William O'Neill that started Investors Business Daily, all his books and that he had written. I've studied all of those. And so reading from the greats, Jeremy.
Be curious, and I tell you just hit on another big one we talk about. This generation of kids is the most sophisticated set of consumers. I mean, they have rewired consumption habits and how retailers, people don't go to malls, they barely go to grocery stores, they get it dropped in during the game. If students are aggressive, they can turn their being digital natives and sophistication into a major employee asset going forward. Can they not?
I totally agree. I totally agree. Yes.
So this has been, I mean, like I said, you and I could, I miss talking to you. We got to do it more often now. We've done this twice over the last couple of weeks. This has been amazing. But, guys, I hope you listen to this. I hope you rewind it and play it over again. Hugely inspirational. One of my dearest friends, obviously, and one of the greatest servant leaders you can talk about, and he knows of that which he speaks. He raised 3 daughters. He and Peggy raised 3 daughters, very successful daughters, as well. And this has been a great, fascinating discussion. My dear friend Greg Powell, Senator Greg Powell, Governor Greg Powell, founder CEO of FiPlan. Invaluable, priceless words of wisdom for life. Not only to have your financial house together, but your brand house together, your values house together. Sharing these words of wisdom, and we really, really appreciate it. I think that you will have a lot of outreach and follow-up from many of our kids. We've got a lot of great kids in it from Birmingham as well, so hopefully they'll seek you out. But Greg, we really appreciate your time and contributions to the students of virtual Melt University. Merry Christmas.
Well, Merry Christmas to you, and thank you for having me. I too treasure your friendship, and we all are writing our life stories, and you definitely are a key role in mine, and I thank you for that.
Well, I really appreciate it, and we'll definitely get back together soon. And but Greg Powell, thank you for joining students.
Thank you, Vince.
Virtual Melt University.
Thanks, Vince. Hope you enjoyed today's virtual class. We'll be back soon with another edition of Melt University 2020.